I want to welcome you to this particular session. We're going to have a conversation together. I know in a big setting we can't really make it interactive, but we are going to have a 10-minute Q&A as soon as we're done, because I always like to hear from you as a facilitator and as an instructor. I always like to learn from you as well. I'm really fascinated at the work that you're doing, all of your accomplishments. When I was working with the federal government, like you just heard, for 34 years, 25 of those 34 years were partnering with professionals like yourself in the area of acquisition, contracting, and procurement. I was the contracting officer. I was the regional chief procurement officer. I was the person that's working with our customers, our stakeholders, working with yourselves, our property managers, our IT personnel, to acquire all the goods and services that we needed for the Department of Defense and the Department of Treasury in terms of our mission, vision, and core values. So when it comes to behavioral ethics, when it comes to using your influence, not just in terms of what you do, but also what you say, your example, because you're a role model, it makes a big difference because people are watching. I'm going to be referring to you during these 50 minutes as leaders, because each and every one of you are leaders. It's not tied to your position and it's not tied to your title, but you are a leader and people are watching. The taxpayers are looking for you for help. The executive orders that come from the President of the United States need to be complied with, and we need leaders like yourselves, professionals like yourselves as a part of this organization and the agencies that you represent to have the highest ethical standards and use your influence to make a positive impact in the lives of others. So on that note, I am going to be sharing with you this topic, this theme, this idea, this concept around becoming. The ing is what's important because it's ongoing, it's recurring, and it's continual. It's something that we always do. A person of influence, and it's your influence that brings forth the ethics that you're all about and what you represent. And so we're going to just kind of kick it off with a very brief introduction, and then I'm going to unpack what we mean when we say becoming a person of influence. So you are a leader. I want that to sink in. Leadership is not necessarily tied to your work role or your position or your title. People are looking to you to set a positive example and lead the way with the highest ethical standards that you can possibly apply before everybody that you meet, everybody that you work with, and everybody that you interact with. So leadership is influence. Your role with your organization is about how you influence and how you make a positive impact in the lives of others and how you set the example, how you raise the bar, how you demonstrate who you are as a role model. Now, our goal is to increase our effectiveness as leaders. So having served as a frontline, a mid-level, and a senior level leader in the government, as you know, there's always different levels of expectation. There's always a different degree of visibility. And there's always a higher level of accountability as we get higher and higher into our careers. But it begins when we're at the frontline level, grade 5, grade 7, in corporations and nonprofit organizations at the frontline level, where you're probably 2 or 3 levels removed from the top person in the organization. But it's because of your influence, and it's because of my influence, that we are now able to be more effective as leaders as it relates to our role. And so that's going to be our goal. And then at the very end, during the Q&A, when we have an opportunity to interact and you ask some of those questions, it's still going to be based on that theme, that premise, that idea around us as leaders, not so much having direct reports, not so much supervising people, not so much leading your organization, but the great work that you are entrusted to do makes you a leader. Now, the goal here for all of us is to better understand how we use our influence to make a positive impact in the lives of others, and also ways that we can increase our influence. So we're going to be talking about things like integrity. We're going to talk about things like having confidence and faith and boldness in the people that you work with, your customers, your stakeholders, your colleagues, your peers. If you happen to be a supervisor, your direct reports, even when you manage up to your boss, because it's all tied to the theme of this particular session, behavioral ethics. And if you and I are operating at a high degree and we're demonstrating as frequently as we can, because none of us are perfect, but as frequently as we can, ethical behavior at the highest level, it gets people's attention. And now we're building trust. And now we're able to sustain and maintain and continue on with great relationships in terms of the people that we work with. So when you think about all of the different work roles that are represented right here in the amphitheater right now, whether you're an IG, whether you're an auditor, an accountant, whether you're actually certified or not, licensed or not, your professional conduct speaks volumes to the work that you do. And so as a certified financial manager, whether it's government, nonprofit, corporations, academic institutions, whoever your employer might be, people are counting on us to have a high level of ethical behavior, and we have a responsibility, a heightened responsibility, not to let them down. And that's how we use our influence. It can be verbal, and it can also be nonverbal. Now, take a look at this video. There's no audio. Just take a look at it. Let it sink in. There's no words. Just watch what's happening. Da-da! Now, that was 28 seconds. No volume. On purpose. I want you to think. I want you to process. I want you to let it sink in. And I'm going to ask someone, or maybe two or three, just very briefly, just shout it out. What just happened? Consensus? Unity? Collaboration? Say again? Communication. Absolutely. All of that is happening so that they could get together, have a smile on their face. That's the most important piece, right? It seems like they actually enjoy being together. And although TEAM can be spelled also in 4 other ways, TEAM, if you kind of interact with those letters, you can come up with other words. I'm not going to get into that today. And you're probably thinking about, I know some of you are probably thinking about, oh, it also spells meat. It also spells mate. There are a couple of other things, but in the context of what you and I do as it relates to ethical behavior, don't you think, without having to answer, you don't have to answer, but don't you think it would require a level of trust that had to already be built for them to work together in just that short period of time to agree to say, we are a team? And when it's all said and done, team literally means together, everyone achieves more. And that's it. So leaders, people are always watching you. People are always watching me. People are always watching us. They may not say anything, but they're watching. And as a certified financial manager, we have the utmost responsibility and accountability and visibility to make sure that we are interacting in a way where we uphold the excellence of our profession. And that's each and every day, every week, every month, every year, in your career progression and in your leadership journey. And it's undeniable. There's no debate, because people are just counting on us to make sure that we are keeping a close eye to make sure that every T is dotted and every T is crossed and every I is dotted. Very, very important. So many people are counting on us. During my career as an acquisition professional, I leaned heavily upon you and your colleagues, because we had to determine And we had to solidify and confirm and validate and verify that budgeted dollars for this fiscal year could be committed to any given project or any given contract. And a lot of it was built on trust. I trusted my financial colleagues to help me to negotiate these contracts with these contractors whose businesses relied heavily on government contracts. And so having the trust, having the relationships, understanding the importance of integrity and ethics, and coming together with people on our team, for example, that would be me in the M, but my colleague in the T worked in finance. My colleague in the E was in IG. My colleague in the A was responsible for managing the budget. And we would all come together. And I counted on them to have a high degree of ethical behavior and a high degree of integrity so that we can come together and make this happen. And they were counting on me as well and my colleagues in acquisition. That's just one of many different examples of how teamwork works. And that's why we use the term, together everyone achieves more. Now, I want this image to just resonate with you just for a few seconds. Just take a look at it, because these represent the different directions that you and I can go as it relates to what we do as professionals. We can choose to have a high degree of ethics. We can choose to be a person of integrity. We can choose to respect others within our sphere of influence, and we can choose to be honest. But guess what? People can also choose, you and I, not to have a high degree of integrity, to cut some corners. You and I can choose not to exemplify the ethical behavior that we're expected to. We can choose not to respect others, whether it's a customer, a stakeholder, a colleague, peer, a direct report, a supervisor, or anybody else within our sphere of influence, and we can choose not to be honest. But I would submit to you that whatever direction you choose to go in, that you would choose, I'm hoping, and I'm confident, to be that person that exemplifies the high degree of ethical behavior. Hence, this particular track, behavioral ethics, is tied right into our influence so that we can make a positive impact in the lives of others. Now, here's what I did to prepare for today. I went directly to your mission statement, your vision statement, your core values, your strategic goals, to tie in the importance of who you are and what we do together. I know you know this, I know you've seen it, but I like to repeat it in this context, because this track is all about behavioral ethics. And this topic that you're going to walk away with is giving us a little bit more information on how to become a person of influence, because it's a combination of what we say and the actions we take, your verbal and your nonverbal. It's a combination of both. And what I've chosen to do is really just highlight and emphasize and bold a couple of words that I just want to bring to your attention. Again, I know you know this. I know you've seen it before, but oftentimes we'll see something new that we didn't see before given the context. So here it is, day 2 of your conference, and I got you right after lunch. Not an easy task for any presenter, any facilitator, any speaker. I recognize that. But it's all about advancing. ING again. Anytime you see that word ING, that means it's ongoing, it's continual, it's recurring. It doesn't stop. Our responsibility collectively in AGA is to advance accountability, to advance transparency, and to advance leadership by doing what? By promoting education and certification. And here's the big one, I believe, in 2023, innovation. We've got to be open and flexible and resilient and adaptive to the times that we're living in. 2023 is much different than it was in 2010, just in terms of dealing with people, dealing with the times, living in America, the importance of our profession. Here we are again on the 20th of September, and we're hearing from Capitol Hill about another possible
government shutdown.
Now, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but these are the times that we have to deal with. But back in 2010, it wasn't a topic. It didn't come up. Not to the frequency that it comes up now. So collaboration, I heard one of our colleagues mention that a little bit earlier when we saw the short video. That was a 28-second video that captures our attention. I think it's very, very effective in terms of what we do, but across all levels of government. This ties into behavioral ethics. You and I have this responsibility to advance and also to promote. We have that responsibility, but it doesn't end there. It also requires that we continue to advance as it relates to the vision. So the mission is why AGA exists. The vision gets into now, how are we going to execute and get to that desired outcome? So we want to be what? The premier association for advancing government accountability. That requires a man and a woman, the professionals that you are, to be laser focused on your ethical behavior. And by doing so, you are promoting and you are advancing the mission and vision of AGA. This is really important. I know we've read it before, but seeing it in the context of this conference, of this particular session, everything else that you've talked about, everything else that you're learning and sharing, all of the different facilitators and speakers, this should be adding value to why you're here. So, talking about values, there it is again. I've mentioned these words several times within our first couple of hours here, first couple of minutes here. The core values include accountability. There's that word integrity. And there's that word leadership. So it all ties into this organization that we're a part of, taking the time out of your busy schedule to come here, to learn more, to expand your relationships, to develop your network, to get to know each other, some lessons learned from each other. You represent different geographical regions around the country, and this is a good thing. It's good for us to come together and have conversations around ethical behavior, being a person of integrity, understanding the importance of accountability. People are watching, knowing that you are a leader. It's not tied to your title and it's not tied to your position. Now, I also took a look at these strategic goals and I underlined just a few words that I want you to be aware of and I want you to kind of think about, let it resonate with you as you think about it. And I know you've read these, but this is very, very important. So the strategic goals, in other words, where is the organization going? What are we looking at in the next 3 to 5, maybe even 10 years in terms of strategic direction, and how can we as professionals help us to get there? Well, number one is just be a catalyst for what? Innovation and thought leadership. Your ideas and your opinions are welcomed. And hopefully in the area of demonstrating, again, accountability, integrity, ethical behavior, all of that ties into the importance of the work that you do. Doesn't just end there. Here's the next one here. Now, again, we heard it earlier, collaboration, but be the facilitator of the collaboration. Promote working together with our colleagues. Help our project directors and our program managers and our contracting officers understand the importance of the work that you're doing, because our hands are tied without you. And in some instances, your hands are tied without them. So it really is a team sport. It really is. The work that we do together and the fact that you would take the extra step to become certified in your profession really speaks volume. And it says right here, multiple disciplines. So you may be working with property managers, folks in facilities, security folks, information technology. I mean, you name it. You hold the purse strings. So, and you make sure that those dollars are protected and that they're spent properly. And that's very, very important, very key. This is the one that I really like. Because again, it's not necessarily what you say, but it's the work that you do that will enhance the public's perception of how we go about managing our finances. Because a person's perception is their reality. It may not be correct, but it's still their reality. That's a conversation that we have a lot in our leadership sessions. The messages that we intend to send are not always received in the manner in which they are intended. That's a communication issue. I heard that earlier from one of our colleagues about communication. But enhancing the public's perception of how we protect the taxpayer dollar, how we are burning funds against contracts, how we are helping to fund projects across the entire federal government, across corporations, nonprofits, and even the academic space. Now, your code of ethics is equally important to the mission, vision, the core values, and the strategic direction of the organization. Because when we talk about ethical behavior, as professionals, we ought to look at it just what it says. And this is coming directly from the organization. It is a minimum standard of conduct. I ask people often in different sessions, and I just want you to think about it. I'm not looking for an answer. I just want you to think about it. You're standing in the grocery store, and you don't have very many groceries. You maybe have 12 items, and you're going through the express lane. The person in front of you has 20 items, but they're not supposed to have any more than 15. So they have chosen not to follow the rules, but you're not going to say anything. It's no big deal. You're not in that much of a rush. But you do kind of wonder, why can't people just go ahead and just follow the rules? You've probably thought about that before. So they complete their checkout, they pay with cash, and they get their change back, and they think they put it in their pocket, and a $20 bill falls on the floor. And you're right behind them. What would you do? Don't answer. Just think about it. Right? Don't answer. Don't say I'll pick it up. But this is something that I want us to think about, because the code of ethics is demanding, it's requiring, it's requesting. You can use any of these different words, a minimum standard of behavior. You know what the right thing to do is, but the question is, what would you do? Now, these are, I believe, the four. So serve and support the public interest. Maintain, again, the highest standards of professionalism. Objectivity, not subjectivity, but maintain your objectivity in carrying out your duties and responsibilities. And then last but not least, keep the information confidential. So what one group of individuals doesn't need to know, they shouldn't know from you, and that's an example of your ethical behavior. That's an example of your influence there in the workplace. So I wanted to take the time to kind of walk you through that as it relates to this session, behavioral ethics, because it's very, very important. I know we've read it. I've probably said that at least 6 times now, but it's important when you think about it in this context, how it applies. You've got 2 full days to kind of soak in some information, to kind of get away from the office, develop new relationships, expand your network. It's very, very important that we come to these events. So here's something that I want you to really think about next. And in the context of what we're talking about this particular session, and quite frankly, if you want to, you can expand it and think about the totality of your time at this conference. How do you see the world? That magnifying lens represents something that I tell leaders all the time. The magnifying lens represents our ability to stay laser focused on our responsibility, our task at hand. Stay laser focused. Financial management, very, very important profession. Very noble profession. We depend on it as a profession. Just think about it. Don't answer. Just think about it. How do you see the world? And what I'm getting to is that every one of us here, when we look at the world through our lenses, including myself, we see something slightly different, because it has everything to do with our background, where we may have been raised or worked or grown up geographically across the United States. It could be based upon our culture. It could be based upon our social values, the social and civic organizations that we're a part of. There's a lot of different factors that go into how you and I see the world. That's why it's not unusual that if a group of individuals are the eyewitness to a certain event, say there's 10 people and they witness the exact same event, whatever the event might be, all 10 will not have the same recollection in terms of what just happened. They'll have a slightly different viewpoint and perspective on what just took place. So this magnifying lens really represents our ability to be laser focused on what's important, and that's why I'm asking the question, how do you see the world? Now, you're going to get a copy of these slides, and you'll get an opportunity to go back and listen to this recording again at some point within the next 30 days or so. And when you do, then I do want you to jot down a couple of notes and a couple of thoughts and a couple of ideas around, how do I see the world? Something to think about. This is a really, really good exercise for those of us as leaders. So I want you to think about this for a minute. When we use our influence, and especially when we're demonstrating ethical behavior, the reasonable expectation, as we read in the mission, vision, core values, and strategic goals and objectives, every one of us has an opportunity as financial professionals to have teachable moments with people that we're working with. In this particular example, it's just mom with her son, and the time is right to transition from riding a bike with training wheels to now getting on the big boy bike and putting on the helmet and going down the hill and staying balanced and not fall. But if he does fall, mom is there to help and support. Every one of us has these moments in our profession, in our career, in our day-to-day activity where we recognize that this is a teachable moment. It may be somebody on your team who is not quite up to speed yet in a particular area, and you can coach and you can mentor and you can help and you can support and you can develop them. That's a teachable moment. To make sure that you help them along the way, and if by chance they make a mistake, if by chance they fall, if by chance they come short, then you're there to help them up, not to beat them up and not to ridicule, but to give them the advocacy that they're looking for. Every one of us has an opportunity to use our influence to make a positive impact in the lives of others through teachable moments. The next one is what we call breakthrough places. This is just an image of children, and you don't have that much information, but the background information on this is you may be able to see it and you may not, but one of the children has on the backpack, the other child has on a backpack, and then the third child has on a backpack. That represents the fact that they are now leaving school for the summer. It's the last day of school. They're absolutely positively delighted. They're happy. They can't wait to go to Six Flags, King Dominion, all these other places that they can go to for the summertime. And they're going through the woods on their way home, and it's a breakthrough place because they can celebrate, because before they left school on the last day, the teacher told them, you have now been promoted from 5th grade to 6th grade. They're leaving elementary school and now going to middle school. That's a big deal. So we call that a breakthrough place. People use their influence, in this particular example, the school teacher, very noble profession, to make a difference in the lives of these children. And I share with people all the time. People ask me all the time, well, Kevin, who are the 3 most influential people in your life? And they think I'm going to say parents, or they think I'm going to say sibling, or maybe a boss or a coworker. I go right back to my 11th grade high school English one-on-one teacher. And I think about the impact and the influence that she had on my life, because the timing was perfect for her to come into my life. And it makes a difference. Oftentimes the timing is perfect when you come into the life of one of your fellow colleagues, direct reports, customers, stakeholders. That's how you use your influence, but you're using your influence in a way where you're demonstrating ethical behavior because people are watching. The last one here is called Catalyst Times. Catalyst Times is just very simple. When you take a look at this particular image, you'll see that the light bulb is not illuminated. That makes a difference. This light bulb is not illuminated because prior to what's about to happen, the light bulb could not figure out how to get the light to come on and why I'm still stuck in the darkness. And over time, we don't have the background information, but over time, the light bulb discovered, oh, there's an energy source that's flowing through the wall that I can't see, but it's connected to this plug. And if I connect to this plug, I'll be connected to the energy source, and now I will become illuminated, and we refer to that as catalyst times. You use your influence and ethical behavior to help people to realize those moments where they can't figure it out themselves. So, it's all about trust, everybody. People trust you as a certified financial planner, certified financial professional. The work that you do, IG, auditor, accounting, and many of the other work roles that I may have inadvertently not mentioned, but the work that you do and your connection to AGA is very, very important, and it's all about the trust. Because that trust is a result of the relationship, but it's very difficult to establish, maintain, or sustain any relationship, personal or professional, without the trust. So it's all connected and it all works together. And people are more likely to trust us when they see our integrity, when they see and feel and experience our ethical behavior. It does make a difference. Now, what you see here are two gymnasts. This is an example. If you've been to the circus, you see these gymnasts really high up in the air. They do have a net beneath them to protect them in the event one slips and falls, but they are really high up in the air, 75 feet to 100 feet. It takes a whole lot of trust to do that. And it takes a lot of trust for people to work in collaboration with us in terms of what we do each and every day. But this is how you use your influence. So, leadership is influence, verbal and nonverbal. It comes with responsibility. What's not specifically referenced here is that responsibility also breeds accountability, which also breeds visibility. All of that kind of goes hand in hand. We grow based upon our influence. We get better, we develop, we improve. It's usually not in all areas. No one is an expert in all things. So one of the reasons that I showed the video at the very beginning, although just 28 seconds, is because we need each other. As an acquisition professional, former acquisition professional, I need you. And you need me to sign the contract so that the financial obligation can take place in that particular given fiscal year. But we also need the attorneys. We also need the property manager. We need the facility folks. We need the information technology professionals. We need the team of people that bring their expertise to bear for a particular situation. Now, your influence can be positive or negative. Think about it. You have been in the presence of good leaders, and you remember how it made you feel, and you've been in the presence of bad leaders, and you remember how it made you feel. I had two bad bosses my entire career. I was very fortunate, blessed, just very supportive in terms of champions and sponsors in my corner that was pushing Kevin Johnson along the way. So post-retirement, this is the lane that I'm in. This is the space and the place that I'm very comfortable as I share information to help all of us to be better, both personally and professionally. But don't be the person to use your influence to make a negative impact on people. They don't deserve it. Now, as we come to a close, I want you to think about a few things. Number one, there are a number of different ways that you and I can increase our influence. How can we reach more people? How can we be more influential? How can we place a positive impact in them? How can we make things better? How can we help them to improve, to develop, to get better overall? And it really starts with just being a man and woman of integrity. Do the things that we say we're going to do. Be the places where we say we're going to be. Uphold the profession of financial management. Be aware of your surroundings. Give it your best. Great work ethic. All of that is tied into being a person of integrity. It's what we teach our children from the time that they're ankle high, and hope that they grow up and understand these principles and strategies as parents that we teach. Well, so it is in the workplace as well. From the time that we walk into the workplace, after we have accepted the offer letter, we did good on our interview, we show up for our first day and we start our orientation. From that day forward, we should be men and women of integrity. But another way to increase your influence is to be a nurturer. And what I mean by that, it ties into the conversation that we've been having. A nurturer creates the space for people around us to grow and to get better. That's why you have the representation of the plant. At a certain size, the plant can grow, but in order for it to continue to grow, it's going to have to be replanted so it can continue to expand its roots and to grow north as well as grow south. And that's what nurturing is. Nurturing is not coddling or babying, but nurturing is just providing an environment for people to grow. And that's how we increase our influence, because people around us are now saying, they give a care that I'm actually here. And people appreciate that. And then the last one here is faith. That is having confidence and having trust in people around you. When somebody says, I have faith in you, what they're saying is that I trust you. I have confidence in your ability. I have confidence in your acumen, your intelligence, your know-how. You know how to get things done. You know how to shake and move. And that's what we mean when we say having faith in people. Because when we do that, we are now demonstrating and we're making a positive impact into who they are, personally and professionally. And I believe that's really what life is all about. When we go to work every day, quite frankly, it's a little bit more than just getting the job done, even though that's why we're there, to get paid, to enjoy our benefits, to accrue our leave. I get that, and I understand it, and I respect it. But we're also responsible to take care of each other. And leaders that don't get it, you're going to have an organization that's a revolving door, because people don't leave the organization, they leave us. And that's just the reality of it all. So read that quote to yourself. For those that have maybe seen it before, you kind of understand what it's all about. But if you haven't seen it before, another way of interpreting this, you are the financial management experts. You live and breathe what you do in every day. But people outside of your sphere of influence don't understand the details and all that's involved with what you do every day. And so Mr. Dunning is really just reminding us that people don't know what they don't know. That's in essence, that's what it's saying. So our job is to help them to know and to help them to get better and to improve. And so this is all part of how we go about making ethical decisions, and it also ties into our unconscious bias as well. I am going to now go ahead and close on this last slide as my colleague comes up, and we're going to do a 10-minute Q&A to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to interact and ask whatever questions that you may have. Practical, ethical leadership has a lot to do with what's being communicated in this slide. In the middle, we have what's called leadership shadows. What casts a shadow over us as leaders? More specifically, as leaders that are exercising behavioral ethics and using our influence to make a positive impact in the lives of others. Well, they pretty much speak for themselves. I don't really need to unpack any of these. They all make sense. But data and statistics show time and time again that these shadows interfere with our ability to be taken seriously or to be viewed as men and women of high degree of integrity or ethics when we misuse or abuse the authority or the power that we have. When we mismanage information or we don't share information, when our performance is inconsistent, up and down, we're waffling, we don't really understand and know what we're doing. People are watching, they don't say anything, but they're watching and just abusing the privileges that we have. So when we step out and we become credentialed professionals and we are certified in our profession, we have that heightened level of responsibility now to not misuse and not abuse the authority, the power, the responsibility that comes with the position. And I want you to think about that. Let that sink in, let that resonate. Because we don't want to do anything as best we can. None of us are perfect, but as best we can, we don't want to cause any shadow of doubt in the minds of anybody that we're working with. But if any of these four show up, that's exactly what's taking place. So, on that note, my time is up. I thank you for yours, and now we're going to enter into a Q&A session.
Kevin, thank you. We got a couple of great questions here on the app. Thank you for those of you who are using the Engage feature. The first one is, how can a lowly team member get noticed as someone who could be a team leader?
The first thing that comes to mind is don't think of yourself as a lowly team member. Don't do that. I call you a frontline leader. If you happen to be the person in your organization that has the least amount of responsibility, the least amount of accountability, the least amount of visibility, because you're learning and you're growing and developing, I refer to you as a frontline leader, and I want you to refer to yourself as a frontline leader. Never refer to yourself as a lowly person on the totem pole, because that does things to the mind, right? So that's the first thing that kind of comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is always be professional, diplomatic, and tactful in everything that you do. I always espouse those three things: professional, diplomatic, and tactful. Somebody's watching. Somebody is saying, oh, this man, this woman has the potential to perform at the next level. They may not say anything, but your name probably will come up behind closed doors when it's time for people to have a conversation around who's next up, who should be moved into this position. And you'll be pleasantly surprised at how many people that you are actually getting to watch you, your performance, your mannerism, your behavior, how you interact with other people. So never refer to yourself as a lowly person on the totem pole, but look at yourself as a frontline leader. It does make a difference.
Thank you. The next one is, how do you break through an environment that is task-driven but not growth-driven?
Task-driven but not growth-driven. Well, two things come to mind. Number one, again, in the spirit of always being professional and diplomatic and tactful, in your own way, find opportunities, whether it's a staff meeting or a town hall meeting or a presentation, if you have an opportunity to do a briefing or a presentation, to put forth ideas and thoughts and perspectives around how we might be able to change and be flexible as an organization to move from just being tactical to sort of being a little bit more strategic and forward-thinking. Your ideas and your thoughts and your perspectives on different topics and different viewpoints, generally speaking, not always, will be heard and you'll be pleasantly surprised at the ones that will be executed and implemented. And that's not a guarantee, but it's worth a try. But again, it's not always what we say, but it's how we say it. And that's why I emphasize just be professional, be diplomatic, and be tactful. Talk to people, not at people or down to people, but talk to them. And oftentimes we surprise ourselves because somebody in that leadership chain is going to say, great idea, great thought, tell me more. And then that opens the door for more conversation.
Fabulous. We got time for one more question is, do you have any advice for those of us with young children for ways to improve work-life balance without feeling like you are falling short in one or the other?
Well, pardon me for laughing, but Kevin Johnson is the father of 3 sons. My sons are all back to back to back. So when my oldest son, Kevin, was 2, his younger brother, Chris, was 1, and his younger brother, Cameron, was a newborn. So I've known about this all my life. When Kevin was 5, Chris was 4, and Cameron was 3. And I was in the middle of my career. As a matter of fact, I was living in New Jersey, Somerset County, New Jersey, Hillsborough, as a matter of fact. And for 6.5 years, when they were that age, I commuted 2 hours one way into Manhattan. I did that for 6.5 years. Now, here's the caveat to answer the question. Get some help. Get some help. So I don't know if this is your situation or not. I don't know if this is possible, but I'm sharing this. I'm hope that this will help. My mother-in-law saw the reality of what was happening because both my wife and I was working, and we had these 3 little babies. And she stepped in, and she relocated from Virginia, and she came to New Jersey, and she lived with us. And she has that kind of a background because she was a daycare provider, and she loves to cook and clean. That's just her heart. And so we looked at each other and we said, we graciously accept this help. And it worked out. So get some help. But also, here's the other piece that's really important. See if your employer would be open and receptive to allowing you to work in a hybrid situation. Not necessarily having to go into the office every day, but being able to spend some time in your home office. Perhaps that will help to ease some of the burden, some of the anxiety, and some of the pressure. So something to think about. That's why when I heard the question, I kind of chuckled because I lived that life. People ask me, how did you get it done? My mother-in-law. Oh yeah, that was a big help. Yeah, you can clap for her a little bit louder than that. And listen, I don't have any issues. I'm sort of a drama-free type guy. I'm like, yeah, bring her, right? I don't think we're going to have any issues. And so she had her section of the house, and the children love her to death, and she was just a phenomenal help. So hopefully that response helped.
Outstanding. That's all the time we have for today. Everyone, please hit the big blue button to evaluate the session. Kevin, I'd like to thank you for making a positive impact on AGA.
Thank you very much.